animal medicine, farm animal management, and data science. And that's included being World Animal Protection's Animal Welfare Manager for South America, working as an academic coordinator of the veterinary medicine program at the Universidad Cooperativa of Colombia, and developing a website aimed to introduce ag students in Latin America to data analysis and data science. He works as a consultant for Human Behavioral Change for Life, which is why he's here today. And so their leads came to talk to us about behavioral change in November, Suzanne Rogers and Joe White. And he's here to give us the final lowdown in our 4th seminar on this topic. How do you apply the science of behavior change to help animals? Thank you so much,
Thank
Hector.
you very much. So, hello, everyone. And actually, I'm very happy to be here. This is the first time in 4 years that I do something not online, although hello, people online. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I will move a lot. So, and I will use my hands. So don't be scared by that. But this is for the people online. So yeah, this is the first time in 4 years that I'm doing something, like that is not virtual. So it feels, quite interesting and exciting not to be wearing a mask and not to be in front of just a screen. So it's real humans we are interacting with this time. Anyway, thank you very much, Professor Mason, for your introduction. I am here on behalf of Susan Rogers and Joe White. They are the co-founders of Human Behavior Change for Life. And I am part of their specialist team. So that's the reason I am the one who lives in this part of the world, because most of the people live in the UK and some of us in Australia. So it's quite an honor for me to be here, my first time at Guelph University. So anyway, I'm very, very happy to just in these 50 minutes talk to you about applying the science of behavior change to help animals. So okay, basically this is going to be the outline of my presentation. It's very flexible. In the next 45 minutes, as I said, we are going to recap a little bit of the concepts that have been discussed here in the previous behavior change seminars. But this time, the difference is that we are going to talk about some examples of experiences that we have had at some experiences that we have had at the Human Behavior Change for Life. And basically, the idea is to make it as participatory as you wish. So we can discuss and we can share knowledge about some of the methodologies. And I think it could be quite interesting with all these science. Basically, I will start this presentation by asking you if you remember, if you know, what is your concept of behavior change? What do you understand by behavior change? Anyone? Okay, I will start. I will. No, there is no evil behind that question. It's not tricky at all. I mean, because basically we need a starting point.
Getting people to change what they do in certain contexts.
Yeah, it's simple. Yeah, right. I mean, like we need to have it's a set of determined actions, defined actions, in order to do what? To change or modify a behavior pattern, right? But to do so, I think we need to take advantage of a lot of areas of knowledge. This is something that we cannot do from our specific area of knowledge. I guess in here in this room and online, most of the audience must be vets, animal scientists, biologists, statisticians, I guess. This is more or less the audience, right? So human behavior change is something that it's a little bit, I am a vet myself, so human behavior change is something a little bit external to us, but it's something that we need to learn because we deal every single day with humans. And there are some behaviors that we want to change. There are some attitudes towards animals that we need or we would love to modify, right? Because they go against the welfare of these animals. So we have to take advantage of certain sciences like education, psychology, one of the most important, anthropology, psychotherapy, sociology, communications, and so on and so forth. And basically all these, plus your specific area of knowledge, because you are the one who knows what needs to be modified. But we need to take advantage of all these tools, because the whole idea is that we can get a strategy that is going to be evidence-based. We need an evidence-based approach, and this is very, very important. So basically, with human behavior change, we get two important tools. The first one is the means to understand why someone does throw their garbage, their litter on the street, why someone doesn't take care of their pet, why someone just neglects the vaccines of the animal, or why someone does it. So with this evidence-based approach, we can start thinking, okay, this is what we can do. And the second, it provides us just, you know, like the tools to develop the evidence-based interventions, just to change the behavior. So these are two very important components. And we first need to understand why. And the second component is we need to know how we're going to do it, how we're going to move from somebody who doesn't recycle to someone who does recycle. And I think this is quite interesting about this science. What we do in human behavior change for life, all sorts of activities, from bespoke training to strategic development, human behavior change research, and field work for organizations. This is something that we're very focused on. Facilitation, mentoring, and support, troubleshooting, and all sorts of other things. This morning, I got an email of all the activities that we are involved right now, and it's quite interesting. One of them is, you know, like a project that is quite cool. It's about welfare of animals in films, you know, and how we should approach. So this is, you know, like among many other things that we do. I didn't know that like we were working on that one. I'm focusing on some other areas. So this is quite cool. This is a very wide range of areas where, you know, we can make interventions, since there are humans and there are humans, you know, like interacting with animals. So I am going to focus my attention on number 3, basically, which is research and field work for organizations. And the first component, the first aspect that we must consider when we're talking about behavior change is the systemic approach. I guess you guys remember or know the systems approach, right? The systematic approach. I have inputs, I have a process, I have an output, and I have a feedback, right? This is something that we do every day, and basically it's quite interesting when we're in sciences. This is how we approach. In animal behavior change, basically, behavior change is exactly the same thing. I have my inputs, which is first, I need to understand. And to understand, I need to know why. I need to understand who, where, how often, how, when. I need to understand all that in order to go into my process. My process is the change. And in that change, I need to design a framework that will allow me to have an effective outcome, which is my impact. So I need to measure and determine which is going to be my outcome. In this case, my expectation is going to be successful, change the behavior, right? But it's very easy to lose control in any of these aspects. So that's why I need my loop. I need feedback. Please take a memory shot of this slide, because we're going to use it very often. Now, I said we were going to talk, and I am going to share experiences of real examples work with animals applying human behavior change. So I will start with the first one. This is some years ago. A client wanted to increase the application of HBC to their work to decrease whipping. So we're talking about an organization working in a developing country, and where donkeys are part of just the carts to move goods, merchandise, and these carts pulled by donkeys. The norm is to whip the animals. Basically, these clients came with the assertion that, what they said is motivation was the key barrier to change. So they said they came already saying, listen, we want to apply human behavior change technique. We want to decrease whipping in donkeys. This is because the donkey owners don't have any motivation. We have tried and they don't want to change the attitude. Okay, that was the approach. So, what was our approach? Remember the screen capture I asked you about the systems approach. We run some surveys, interviews, the staff. We did some field work, surveys, focus groups, interviews, observations, results, and analysis. So I am going to focus here in our results and analysis component, because this first part is going to be really extensive. This is where you have to just use again, and I will refer to the first slide. You need all these sciences. You need to know who you're working with. So you need to just, use psychology. You need to use sociology. You need to use anthropology, because in this case, we're working with an audience that probably are entirely different. To us, they have a different background. They have a different academic level. They have different beliefs, and we have to understand all that. So we cannot design our tools in a simplistic way. We have to just consider all those aspects. And then once we gather the information, don't forget, again, another hook. The people from the organization, they said it's a motivation component, right? We can start planning what is going to be our intervention. So in this case, we selected one model. There's plenty of models in the literature. We selected one model of behavior change that is called the COMB. Anyone have you heard about the COMB? Yeah. What have you applied it? Have you used it?
No, I don't do this.
Okay. Good. So the COMB is basically a model where sorry, my watch is telling me that I just I made my goal of specs. So the COMB, basically it's a model that was designed by Susan Michi and her colleagues, and it's quite interesting because it is a very complete framework that explains not only the behavior, but also gives you a framework to understand and how to design your strategy, how you're going to create those or that defined set of actions to set the behavior. And I think that's why it's so interesting. So as you can see, there are three wheels. So the inner wheel is kind of the one that will define which are the sources of the behavior. And according to this strategy, what they say, you can check on the internet. There's also a book, there are all sorts of papers. But the important point is that any behavior can be explained from these three components, from capability, opportunity, and motivation. Let's make a quick review of each of the three in order to just understand. Capability, what do we understand by capability? Anyone?
Your ability to actually do something, get somewhere,
Right.
access something.
Capacity, right? What is your capacity? Do you have the skills and these skills should be can be psychological or physical. Then we have motivation. No, I will go with opportunity. Opportunity is what makes reference to all the external factors. Do I have the physical opportunity or the social opportunity? Can I just perform that behavior? Are all the external factors ready for me to do that or not? And the motivation. The motivation is the one that has to do with our brain, our gut, right? Is the reflective. It's a process that goes into decision making. I have thought about doing this. It's part of my goals, or automatic. I am not thinking, it's my gut, right? I have the gut and I just did it. So basically, that's why it's called COMB, C-O-M-B, to change or to modify the behavior. And this is where the model comes from. I will explain the other wheels later. So let's focus into this green wheel first. And let's not forget, we're talking about the case of the donkeys, right? Where we are thinking what we want is the donkey owners to decrease the whipping behavior. So we can, according to that, and this is something very interesting. This is one of the main characteristics of this model, is the model is comprehensive. We can explain any behavior with these three components. So in this case, we create a table, and then we can start thinking, okay, from the donkey owner's point of view, their capability, psychological capability, well, they have no idea. There is a lack of knowledge on the existence of other donkey handling techniques. That's all they know. That's what they learn from generation to generation. That's how they have just pulled the carts, and that's how they have just made their way around the streets. From the physical point of view, the owners, well, if they don't know that there is another handling technique, of course, they have no idea how to do it, right? So they don't have the skills. From the opportunity point of view, physical. So just put yourself, you saw the pictures, you know, like the weather is hot, the roads are in bad shape, and well, the carts probably are not well maintained. So if you're desperate, if you're hot, if there's a lot of traffic, what is the easiest thing to do? Quit, right? And from the social point of view, and then this is where I said you have to understand and, you know, use all the tools from all the other areas of knowledge, because what we learn there is that, you know, like it's normal in that society to correct not only the animals, but to correct your wife, to discipline your wife or your children with violence. It's quite normal to just, you know, like give your family a slap. So why, you know, if I do it with my wife, why shouldn't I do it with the donkey? And motivation, the third one. So from the reflective point of view, basically, ignorance, we found that there was ignorance of the actual injuries and bruises that beating an animal can produce. So sure, they know that if they just whip too hard, there's going to be a problem, but they say, okay, I can just do it and nothing happens, right? It happens. And of course, the stress and the tension, the distress that the animal can experiment with all these whipping. And also automatic. So the whip is just an extension of their hand. And, you know, this is how things have been done for generations. Okay, so we completed our table here. And now I want to ask you, I will give you a little tip. The people from the organization, they said it's motivation. You remember? I said that. There is a total lack of motivation. After we run our first component of the systemic approach, I mean, we went into all the understanding, we did the surveys, and we went through all these interviews and listened and saw, and we did all these things. We wait, because we have to define the strategy. What are we going to do? Which one of these three do you think it was the reason? Yes, indeed, it was capability. It was capability. It was not motivation. So, and that was quite interesting, right? Because they came with that assumption. And that's one of the first lessons when you're trying to modify certain behavior. Don't make assumptions, because they were pretty convinced of that. And actually, that was very interesting, because for them, it was quite an eye-opener when they realized it's capability, not motivation. Okay, so of course, if they don't know about their existence, of course, they don't have the skills, right? You have to first know that it exists and then develop the physical skills. So we have a good diagnosis. Now we have to move into the intervention. And this is the second wheel. So the intervention functions are basically what? All these strategies, all these actions that will allow me to modify the behavior. This is how I can support basically the change of behavior. Again, in that model, in the Campbell model, they kind of work, or they studied 19 different frameworks, and they came with this one. So that's why it's so interesting. And according to what the model says, or what they tested, because it's not only what they said, they tested, each one of these 9 basically will help you develop your strategy. So we have from training to coercion, to education, restriction, persuasion, so on and so forth. So you have to pick the ones that are the most applicable to what you're trying to address. In this case, let's not forget capability, psychological, donkey owners, right? We're trying to follow our coherence thread here. So we picked education, makes sense, right? We need to teach them about the existence of these techniques, provide the information, demonstrate, we can do the demonstrations. We need to train, develop the skill to a desired standard. We need the workshops as our action, and finally, enablement. So we picked 3 of these 9, make it possible for it to happen. So it was not only important to give them the education, to give them the workshops, but also another important component. We needed to make sure. And in order to do that, we had to create monitoring groups, see what they were doing, and give them immediate feedback. Why is important the immediate feedback? Because then, you know, like if you're not doing what it's supposed to do, and you're not, you know, addressed immediately, so you will assume that everything is all right. So basically, this was the strategy. And to follow the intervention policy, so the intervention function, sorry, you have to focus into the final component of the wheel, the most external component of the wheel, which are the policy categories. The policy categories basically are what? Those actions that are required from the people that are in charge, those who are in authority. In this case, it's not, they are not the authority, they are an organization that looks for the welfare of these donkeys. But it's just the actions of those who want to make the change. Again, it's 7, and all these 7 support the other 9 that support the other 3. So in this case, again, we have to go in coherence. So for instance, we cannot go for legislation because we're not the law. What can we do? We pick, okay, education. You remember, I'll go back here. We pick education. So in order to be able to implement an education program, what do I need to do? I can pick communication and marketing, yes, transfer the information. In order to do that, again, the first slide, I need to check all these other sciences. How am I going to do this? I need to create a campaign, and I need to let them know. I need to create interest. How do I do this? I have to go into these other areas of knowledge. And I need to identify which is the media, the most popular among them. Because, you know, probably if I design something really nice over the internet, it's going to be really cool. but they are not going to look at it because they don't check on the internet. These people basically have a different way, you know, like they go on the radio, they transmit the messages person to person. Well, now everyone has a cell phone, but again, you cannot make assumptions. So in this case, the important aspect was select which was the right media through the veterinary clinic, through the community center, and let them know that, you know, this is what we were intending to do. Education, guidelines, of course. If I am trying to create an education program, I need to develop the guidelines, but again, I need to think who's my audience. In this case, I cannot come with a lovely, nice scientific paper. I have to again think, you know, work with my colleagues from psychology and education, and please let me know what can I do to focus this. This is my target. This is the level of education. How can I do this? So don't try to be, you know, like some piece of advice. Don't try to be a superhero here, and don't try to do everything on your own, because you're going to fail. I mean, like it's very hard. So just talk to other people and check how to create a positive impact campaign. And of course, the final component, service provision. So we need to create monitoring. What I was telling you before, just check how we were going to create these groups of people to immediately give feedback when they are performing the video. Give you some feedback on what's going on in these campaigns. Not finished yet, not final results. So I cannot show you, this is the impact that we caused. However, something really important that is going on. The relationship between the people from the organization and the donkey owners has drastically changed for good. Once the people from the organization realize, oh, this is not motivation, this is capability. They are interested, they just don't know how. The whole thing changed. And there is a more positive approach, a more positive interaction. So that's cool, right? Because it's going to be, I mean, like, instead of seeing the donkey owners as, you know, like probably lazy ones or people who are not interested, they can see them as allies. And the people from the donkey owners also see them as allies. And that's very important. Okay. Second case. And I will ask for your participation here. We have, this is again another case we are working with. The owner of a veterinary clinic wants us to design a campaign to shock people into cleaning their pets' teeth. In the past 5 years, they have noticed how incidence of periodontal disease has grown from 50% to 70% in population. Maybe with the pandemic, more people, you know, start having pets. They have no idea how to take care of pets. And this is the outcome. There is more periodontal disease. The owners of the clinic, an organization that has no economic purpose, no economic benefit here, they are interested, okay, we need to come with a campaign. So don't forget who's the people who want to make a change. You know, like, again, another organization. It's not legislation. It's not the authority. Okay. You remember our combi model, right? Oh, one more slide. So based on the assumption that they have two assumptions here. People don't know they should clean their pets' teeth. And there is a second assumption, or can't be bothered. So how would you approach these requests? What would you do? What do you think? What would you do in this case?
We start with a survey to see if there's assumptions.
Perfect. Yes. Document. Thank you for reminding me. I was going to ask that. How many of you clean your pet's teeth, right? I mean, we better don't talk about it. So yes, it's kind of a tricky thing. It's hard. It's difficult, and that's why we brought this case, because it's not an easy one. But Again, the people from the vet clinic says they cannot be bothered, or they don't know they should do it. So, systemic approach, we need to figure it out first. Okay, let's break a rule. Let's make an assumption. Let's make the assumption that we have already done our research. And let's try here to see if our COM-B can be applied into this situation. I just want you to think a little bit about which are the, like the main aspects here that we should consider and see if it can work. So let's start with capability. Capability is divided into psychological and physical. So what could be the psychological barrier in capability? They don't know how. I'm going to fill this one here. Oh, no, I cannot do it. Sorry, people on Zoom, I cannot do it because otherwise I'll break the whole thing. So I cannot fill it. So, but yeah, they don't know how, right? In psychological, they don't know they have to. It's the first one. They don't know. It doesn't exist. I don't know I have to clean my pet's teeth. It's just something unexistent. And the physical, they don't know how to. Don't forget, the owners of the veterinary clinic say they don't know they have to. It's psychological for them. Let's go into the second one, the opportunity. Physical. What could physical be?
I don't know if it's psychological, physical, but fear of putting their hands in the pet's mouth. And are we talking about owners cleaning the pet's teeth?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, just the fear of their pet's head shy or doesn't like having appear to be open to the idea.
So I don't have the proper technique, right? I don't know how to do it. I have fear, but then probably that could be more physical capability, right?
They might not be able to get for the physical stuff, I think, might not be able to get the toothpaste, like opportunity physical.
Yes.
Toothpaste or the whatever is needed or little.
Or the toothbrush, right? Not the toothbrush. Exactly. It's all the external factors. The opportunity are all the external factors. So maybe they don't have the toothbrush. Maybe they don't have the toothpaste.
For social, could it be that they exist in a peer circle where brushing an animal's teeth is not okay?
Perfect. Nobody talks about it. It's neutral. It's just like nobody says anything about not brushing your teeth. Like it's non-existent.
Or negative.
Or negative.
You get ridiculed for brushing.
Oh yes, yes. Probably somebody could even say you are anthropomorphizing these things. Who said that animals should, brush teeth? Yes, could be negative. You're right.
Also for opportunity physical, I'm thinking money. Money would come up for buying these extra things to do this for the animals. And then also the vets would notice this is probably when they do surgery or whatever.
Sure.
That's a whole other issue.
Sure. What about time?
I expect some time. Yeah.
Right? Time. Exactly. So, but again, this one would be more physical. I need to know how. I need to learn the strategy of how to just approach the pet.
I would say time.
Exactly. Both. Exactly. So it's not an easy one. And the third one, motivation. Reflective is, as I said before, the automatic, right? Just, like I don't think. It's just my gut or it's inertia. I do it automatically. So which one do you think? A reflective one?
I would say family pet, busy life. Like I might not have bandwidth to be able to reflect that this is something that needs to be done.
Perfect. That's it. Yes. I mean, like I don't think. Sorry, I got a little moment here of reflective is. You explain it better than me. Reflective is exactly that. Like I don't consider this is not part of my goals. This is not part of my strategy. I don't have to do this, right? That's an automatic. Again, it's just the reflex. Well, if I haven't thought about it, I don't even, why do I have to just incorporate it into my system? So in this case, it's very, very interesting because one of the biggest limitants was capability, physical. It's more or less what you said, like they don't know how, there is fear. So it requires a full strategy to develop this behavior because they know, and sometimes actually the pet talks to us, right? And talks to us and we get a little bit, horrified with the halitosis. So we know that something needs to be done. We take the pet to the vet tells us, okay, this is what should be done. Probably sometimes some people just don't do it and they just wait every 6 months to, take the animal to clean the teeth. But the idea would be much better if we can create the habit. So we have to move from this one into the second wheel. And this is what is really interesting. That's why, there are all sorts of models for change behavior, but this one is quite interesting because it gives you the strategies. So in this case, as you see on the upper part of this table, we have in the columns, we have the red wheel, the 9 interventions. And in the rows in green, I have my model, the COM-B. So what is really interesting about this first matrix is that you can select based on the strategy, on the problem with the what is causing the behavior, you can select which is going to be your intervention, which is going to be your intervention function. So in this case, capability, physical. So we have 2 options, right? Training and enablement. And it matches with what we were saying previously. It's coherent, I think, because we said there's fear. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to approach. In order to do that, and if I'm trying to create a campaign, what do I have to do? I need to train. I mean, it's kind of obvious when you think about it. And also I need to enable. I need to make it happen. So I need to follow up that this training is positive, that basically the animal is well trained and the pet owner is also well trained. Both of them know what they are doing. So this is very interesting because, again, for us, when we read about this model, for any intervention, you can find, which are the best alternatives that will suit you. So that's quite cool. And then I move into the third wheel. What do people need to do? So we have to consider, again, the second wheel in the column area, and in the rows we have all our policies. So we're talking about training. Again, we need to be coherent here. Training to do what? Increase the capability, the physical capability for the owners to clean their pet's teeth. So in training, that is here, in the 5th column, I have all these options. So I can do guidelines, I can do regulation, I can do legislation, or I can do service provision. Again, we have to just put ourselves in place. Who's the people who want to intervene? Who are the ones who are running the campaign? The owners of the clinic. Therefore, legislation, I don't think I can. There's nothing I can do with legislation. So discard that. Regulation, I cannot establish what is good or what is wrong. I cannot establish that set of rules, but I can create the guidelines for sure, and I can just come with the service provision. So again, this is what these people should do. And now the framework ends here. It's not going to tell me how to design it. Now it will depend on what you are going to do and who you're going to talk to create a campaign. But It's also very helpful, like for instance, if you're thinking about a video, or if you're thinking about workshops for training, right? So you can establish which are the resources that you have, and based on that, you can just select which is going to be the best policy for you based on the different interventions. So, any questions so far about this? Are we good? Okay. We were talking about how do I create the space, right? I don't have the time. I don't know how to do it. Let's suppose that we overcame all these aspects. You got trained, and actually your pet may be not very happy about, brushing its teeth, but it's okay. There is no violence. It's a positive activity that you can have. One of the most important techniques that you have in behavior change, well, and because of time constraints, I cannot talk much about behavior change techniques, but a very important one is the habit, and is how you put a habit that you already have to the new habit. And this is how you create the change. So basically, Fogg, who has worked a lot about this, is a psychologist, basically, he talks about the creation of sustained behavior using habits. And this is like basically with a very simple fill in the blank sentence. In the case of brushing your pet's teeth, when I brush my teeth after dinner, I will brush my pet's teeth so that I will get closer to the recommended. Do you know any idea how many times do I have to do these until I create the habit? I guesstimate, yeah. So in my case, it will take a lot, but 20 to 30. Any other guesstimate? 50? 40? Okay, not too bad, not too bad. But you are at the lower end of the distribution. It's between 50 and roughly 280 times. And on average, it's going to take around 66 times. So we're talking that this is going to take between 2 months and 6 months. So be patient. Be very patient, because you cannot do this in a second. This is not something that's going to happen immediately, but it's good. So now if you want to create a new habit, not only brushing your pet's teeth, but like working out at night, going to the gym. It's not going to happen on the first week. I mean, the habit only will be created after probably 2 months, if so. So, and I guess I probably will agree with Professor Mason, that might be correlated. The older you are, the longer it will take you. So just this is going to take a long time, but this is how it is. Now, don't forget, I have focused basically on the second component of that systems approach, which is the change, right? The creation of the strategy. But this is a much bigger process. I think for those of you who have been in the previous seminars, maybe you're familiar with this figure, but it's interesting to bring it back, because it helps us understand and review what we did, the exercise we did, not only with the donkeys, but also with the pets. And we can consider each of the different stages. The first one is the pre-contemplation. So, as we said, there's no awareness. I don't even know how to brush my pet's teeth. The second one, contemplation. I start thinking, okay, there is something, because there is halitosis. I take my dog to the vet, and the vet told me there's a problem here and you should do it. Oh, doctor, that's too hard. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. That's not for me, right? You understand at some extent, but you are not ready. Preparation. Maybe you talk to someone, maybe to your neighbor, and that person has established a habit. Oh, I need to brush my pet's teeth. Oh, you do that? Really? How? Or maybe at the clinic. These people have established a good campaign and they send you an email inviting you to a workshop. How to brush your pet's teeth. Okay, let's go and see how this thing is done. Action. 66 times on average. Do repeat. Go ahead, do it again. Every single night or every other day, whatever you pick, until you create the habit. You did it, right? Congratulations. No, it doesn't work that easy. You know, you have to always look after. And this is why, again, I bring you back to the second slide, the systems approach. You need a feedback. You need to monitor. You need to keep constantly looking, and you need to design that in your strategy. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good strategy. If you didn't think about that, if you forgot that component, maybe your entire framework, all the time, money that you have invested will go to the garbage can or the recycling or whatever. But basically, you are going to be doomed to fail. And I will add, there's a sixth one that is not considered here, but I think it's important. Any ideas of what else? One more? You know what? It's very easy that you forget entirely about this thing in 1 or 2 years. How many times for one entire year you have been going to the gym? You supposedly created the habit, and then you relax. And this is why it's so important, again, to have a good strategy. 1 year later, the nurse from the veterinary clinic can make that phone call, right? Hey, what's going on with Fido? How are the teeth? What happened? Oh, and then you can create some sense of guilt, right? Something, and that's positive in this case. This is what we're aiming at. We're running short of time, but I want to just make a final exercise again about something that we do at the Human Behavior Change for Life. Captive animal facility managers at the zoo are unsure about investing in enrichment despite the animal carers being keen. There is concern for cost in terms of enrichment activities and also staff time. The managers feel under pressure from an animal welfare group to improve conditions for the animals in their care. Any approach? How would you deal with this situation? So we have two components, right? The managers, the people who just run the money, and they are worried about budget and another resource, which is their staff time, which is another precious resource, and the pressure from the animal welfare organization. How do we conciliate this part? Mm-hmm. But I don't have the money.
I thought you meant we could go backwards first and see what measures we have. Is it just this animal or is it all animals? Is it just that?
All the animals at the facility, all the animals. Basically, I haven't established any environmental enrichment program, and I have big pressure from the animal welfare organization that I have to do it. My staff, they are keen, they want to do it, but I am the one who's still thinking. I am the manager, right? And I am the one who's thinking, I don't have the money, and these people, they are already overloaded. They cannot do it. So, and we are in this dilemma.
Don't talk to other organizations. Other enrichment programs for us, for other simple ones that they've found
Low cost, right? Given the strategies, given the options, yes. And this is something else that we do there, which is facilitation. We try to listen, because in this case, you cannot say, I am the evil guy because I am the manager. I have a responsibility here, and it's not a small one, right? I have to make sure that my staff gets paid. I have to make sure that the animals get fed. I have to make sure that, you know, the facilities are in proper condition. So I don't have time to play balls with my bears. I'm sorry, but I don't have the time. That, I mean, like, that's from my manager's point of view. And other people might think that I'm the evil one. But if I tell you that story, if the animal welfare organization allows this manager to talk, they might realize that, you know, in my story, I am not the villain. And if the managers of the facility talk to the people from the animal welfare, they might think they are just making assumptions. Oh yeah, sure. These people, they are, I mean, come here, I will invite you here, sit in my place for one day and try to run all these matters, try to think all the things I have to do, try to run them. Just think about that. Why do you think I would have the time to just, you know, talk about this thing about environmental enrichment? And that's exactly what we do when we're trying to facilitate. Because what we care in this case is the welfare of the animals. So we have to make them consider all the good options, all the good opportunities that they are going to have, and probably money they're going to save through enriching the environment, right? And what we have to consider here is that although we are from very different point of views, no matter what, there is always going to be something that will intersect. So there is going to be some similarities. And I think this is very important. And okay, this is already good, perfect timing. This is my final slide. So please don't forget these. Again, it's complex because it's humans. This won't work for those of you who are in stats. This is not a linear model. Sometimes, you know, like this doesn't work like that. This is not a mixed model. This is far way more convoluted than that. This is very, very complex because we're dealing with emotions here. And again, the first slide, we need to think about all these first. So when you're studying a process of change, a process of behavior change, you're going to feel anxious. And then when you learn to brush properly your pet's teeth, you're going to feel happy. But again, you might feel fear, right? I am not going to be able to do these. And even threat. I didn't do it. Guilt. And this is where your fantastic feedback strategy will just jump, because you're going to make a follow-up. And you're going to encourage the person, and you're going to maybe have a second workshop and explain what this person is doing wrong, and correct the process and accept it and think, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can, and I can move forward. Okay, bring the next one. What else do I have to change here? Now I think I can do this. So basically, just to round up, the take-home messages, please, every time you do these, have a systemic approach. Don't forget about it. Understand first. I think we were very clear about it. Understand first. Don't make any assumptions. The big mistake of this organization I talk about first was don't make assumptions and things will run better. In the case of the pet's teeth, they also were making assumptions. It happened that, you know, by coincidence or probably by observation, they were right in one of them. And then we could follow the strategy, but it's not going to work all the time. Be empathetic, very important. You don't know everything. Learn from other people, show empathy, and put in other people's shoes, very important. Involve people. This one, address causes, not symptoms. When you're working about the behavior change, express the problem in terms of the behavior. Whipping, not brushing the teeth. Don't talk about periodontal disease. Talk about not brushing the teeth in order to just create the moment, create the habit. 66 times, don't forget. And embrace the complexities. So basically, this was my presentation.